Yeah, so this workshop is all about introducing a concept called everyday participation. Everyday participation is really about how can you as organisations harness the ideas and energy of your members, whether they are staff or whether they are your workers, staff, or they are customers. But at the same time, we believe it doesn't actually matter who your members are, because if you involve people, whether you involve them internally or externally, that's good for your business anyways, in any case. So can I just check who's working for a cooperative? You want to raise? And that's actually not that many. And who is, who else is in the room? What other organisations, or what's your...
Community interest in it.
Yeah.
We're a company limited by guarantee, but we're converted to a fair share.
Yeah. So kind of you all have some sort of crowd of people you kind of want to reach, whether they are members or whether they're customers or supporters or whatever. That's good. If you don't, maybe if you work with an organisation, so if you were to fund it or accelerate it, maybe for this workshop it's useful to kind of just think as if you had a crowd you want to engage, because the structure of today is that I will share a little bit where's this idea and where's this concept coming from, and then I will share case studies of everyday participation, so I will send them those. Come on. And then it's kind of over to you, and there's a bit of an exercise, and you get to kind of try the modes and come up with ideas how you can engage people more meaningfully. So, before we start, I want to show you a little video of how an AGM could also look like. It might be a bit loud, so...
Welcome to our 2015 AGM.
So we're here today in Aberdeen. We got 6,000 equity punks. Had a really great day tasting some incredible beer, listened to some great bands, had some awesome food as well.
I became an equity punk because I believe in this company and I absolutely adore their beer. Real beer, not just processed crap. It should be good stuff.
It's great to see kind of where Brewdog's going, how it's building. It's just really good to get a feel of what the company's doing.
I've always been a big fan of Brewdog, so when someone messaged me saying Brewdog were selling shares, I was really keen to get a hold on the business really, because I think it's such a great opportunity and more people we can get out to the better really.
I was using our little pilot kit and brewed an imperial stout on it, about roughly 8%. So lots of people, how we make beer, different ingredients, different hops. It's good fun.
This is a collection of people who are like-minded in the sense that they promote craft beer, and really excited by how many cities and countries that may affect in the future. So really excited to be part of it.
The reason why I showed this video is because so this is from Brewdog, which is a craft beer company, and the reason why I showed it is because we might think what we want them. They are not a cooperative, but they're using everyday participation really brilliantly. They offer a lot of opportunities for people to get involved and shape the business through equity crowdfunding, but also through kind of sharing the recipes of their beer, to learning skills how to brew beer and all of it. So they are one of our examples where we really think that they are. Wouldn't it be amazing if they actually had the right structure? And I'm going to share a lot of case studies today, and none of them are actually cooperatives, and that's on purpose, because I think we can learn a lot from other examples outside and really how can we learn from them, really involving people. So just to say a bit about me, I'm Iris, I'm Program Manager at the New Citizenship Project. We are an innovation company, and we come up with good ideas because we think of people differently. We think of people as citizens and participants in causes, not consumers of products or services. So that's a very different mindset. And quite fundamentally, at the heart of the New Citizenship Project is the idea that there are different roles of the individual in society, and it matters how we think of people and how we involve them. And we've done a lot of research on the priming effect of how we treat people and how we see them, which you can all find at the URL citizenship.info. So there's a bit more, and we looked into the history, and we think actually that the role of the individual in society has shifted over time from subjects to consumers, and now there's a possibility of us becoming citizens. And quite fundamentally, the difference between these three ideas is around their capabilities and how we see them and how we interact with them. So when we think of people as subjects, we think of them as dependent. We as organisations do stuff to them. Subjects, kind of their role is to obey and to receive, and as an organisation we command. When we think of people as consumers, and arguably that's the dominant story at the moment, we think of people as independent. We do stuff for consumers. Consumers demand and they choose between options given, and as organisations our role is to serve the consumer. And then we have the citizen, and that's where it gets really exciting for us, and that's where we work a lot in that space. And when we think of people as citizens, we think of them as interdependent, We do stuff with them. Citizens participate and they create, they shape with us. And we as organisations, we facilitate the citizen. So that's very different engagement modes and mindset we're actually using to engage with people. So we, at the New Citizenship Project, we help organisations think of people as citizens. And one of the main ways we're doing that is through collaborative innovation projects. So these collaborative innovation projects ask, what does this shift from consumer to citizen mean for a specific sector? And we do that actually with the sector. So we get some organisations together over a long period, and we kind of have a question at the heart, and we innovate together and come up with something. And that's what we've done in the cooperative sector. So our inquiry question at the beginning of 2017 was, how can cooperatives work together with staff and customers to achieve more, not just sell products? And for the question, what's really important to know is that by achieving more, we do mean commercially as well as increasing your social impact. So it's both. How can we achieve more? And this question, no worries. This question was at the heart of our inquiry that was for about a year. Our participant organisations were the Co-op Group, Nationwide, which is a mutual, the Phone Co-op, and Lincolnshire Co-op, which is a regional cooperative. And the everyday participation toolkit that I have here and that I'm sharing with you today is the outcome of that year-long process, inquiry. So just to say a bit about what was it that we found within this year of what was the diagnosis we came to, and where does everyday participation kind of come from? So the diagnosis we had quite early on is that cooperatives engage with people in two different ways. So on the one hand, you have economic participation. Economic participation is when people consume your products, they choose between options, and they feedback comments. Come on in. And they feedback comments. So this is where lots of people engage with you, but the problem is that you actually you're not distinct from any other business. You're just trading with them, and that's it. And on the other hand, you have governance participation. So that is when people get involved in your government structure. So this is when people vote for representatives, they stand for office, and they make decisions. And here you have, this is quite heavy participation, and the great risk is that you have just a few people and you always have the usual suspects, so you don't actually get a lot of diversity in there. So this was the diagnosis we had, that in the cooperative sector, these were the two kind of areas where participation with citizens and with members happened. And actually throughout our project, we discovered that there's this whole space in the middle. that is, we call it the fertile middle ground, and that's what we see as everyday participation. So everyday participation is between these two kind of extremes, and it is around how can you harness people's ideas and energies in simple but meaningful ways on an everyday basis. So how can they help you shape what you're trying to do in the world? And that's very unique as well to cooperatives. So why does that matter? So we believe it matters because offering people more opportunities to engage with you deepens engagement, and deeper engagement does lead to people staying longer with you. They contribute more value, and they also do spend more money. And you will get better ideas because you're going out and you're inviting people through participatory processes, to share their ideas, and people who are actually closer to the problems you're trying to solve. And better engagement, deeper engagement, better ideas does lead to greater social impact. So this is when you have more people participating, getting more and better ideas to solve the problems in the communities that you're trying to solve.
Can I just have a slide before?
I'm coming back to that slide. And it's on the water side. This one. so in what I'm going to do in a minute is run you through all of the modes. So the outcome of this project was to create a tool that helps organizations really harness everyday participation. So this is where the 7 modes of everyday participation come from. And I'm going to give you a case study of each. However, before that, I want to create a question you're going to hold when we go into the exercise later. And there's a couple of things to say before I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to write down the question you want to work with. Is that my suggestion to you is to use a question that's something like this. How can we work with X to do Y? The reason for that is quite simple. So a question kind of focuses our energies. So you don't want to do a problem statement or a statement as such. You want to have a question. When you start the question with how can, you're opening up. It's not a yes or no answer. You're already actually implying that you can solve that. It is a question we can hear and work with and can solve. And then the trick is really, like, if you really want to involve people, just make it explicit, include with. So think about who might be a group of people you want to work with. Is it your members? Is it a particular group of staff? Is it a particular organisation or community you want to involve in something? And then obviously why, like what you're trying to reach, what's the outcome. Just to say that we as New Citizenship Project, we believe the most powerful questions have purpose at the heart. So how can we work with our members, workers, customers to fulfill our purpose? So that would be our recommendation. If you can come up with your purpose or draft purpose or something, use that. And just a couple of examples of very live questions actually we're working with at the moment. So the first one is from Lincolnshire Co-op. How can Lincolnshire Co-op work with all staff and members to bring together ideas, energy and resources to make our communities better? So that's actually their purpose, the last bit, to bring together. So this is again, how can Lincolnshire Co-op with members do this? The second question is a bit more of a draft one. We're working with Co-op, Fame Co-op on what's on a new purpose articulation. What is it trying to do? What's the role of the Fame Co-op in the world? And at the moment, it might be something like, how can the Fame Co-op work with customers to help more people feel more connected? And the last one is one I've been working with the Co-op group for the past kind of couple of years, and they've looked at an issue rather than the big organisational purpose, like and that was recycling. How can the Co-op group work with members to get to 100% recycled packaging? So does that give you an idea of what kind of sort of question I'm looking for? Then just a couple of minutes, write down one question that I want you to have in mind while I walk you through the case studies, and then there's some time where you can work on that question with the modes. Does that make sense? Good. If you don't have something to write down, maybe use your phone or something. I'll give you about 2 minutes to write down a question.
Iris, will your slides be available for us?
Sorry?
Will your slides be available for us?
Yeah, definitely. I've got some parts of the toolkit you can take with you, so that is in there definitely.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay. That makes things easy.
Should have sat down before, sorry.
No, it's all right.
Who needs more time, or has everyone got a question? Good. Then I'm going to run you through our 7 modes of everyday participation. So our first mode is tell stories, and tell stories is really about giving a framework and a structure to share personal experience. So one of our favourite examples is History Matters, Pass It On. So that's a national campaign from 2006, which just explains the picture. So in 2006, technology wasn't what it is today. But that campaign was all around cultural organisations coming together and asking about the importance of history and cultural places in people's life. And that was quite an interesting thing, because they put out the question, share with us your experience of why history matters. And people were asked to share a personal blog or a postcard and make it public. And that was, again, 2006. And they had over 80,000 contributions by just giving a simple structure and framework for people to share their personal experience. And that had a massive increase in visitors to cultural organisations. It was also interesting that lots of different organisations came together and had that campaign. So it was the National Trust, it was the Parks Association, it was RSPB, it was lots of organisations coming together to kind of host that conversation with the public. Our second mode is gather data. So gather data is about asking people to collect with you information as part of a big data gathering exercise. So one of the best examples, and I'm sure you know about this, is RSPB's Big Garden Bird Watch. So that's a citizen science project where RSPB is asking people to share the sightings of specific birds on a specific weekend every year, I think. And that's an interesting project because that actually has been going on since about 40 years. So it's one of the oldest and definitely one of the biggest citizen science projects. And the interesting thing about RSPB is that by opening up, by asking people to collect data with them, they have one of the biggest data sets, and they couldn't do that without the citizens. So there's something really interesting in opening up, asking people to help you collect the data, the information you are looking to have.
Can I ask a question, if you want? Well, the thing is that both examples, the public at large participates, which makes them quite undefined as stakeholders, which is like no danger. There's no other position with which they participate other than the method itself, the participation itself.
Yeah.
Now within the core world, this is not true, because in the core you have multiple perspectives of participants, and that tends to give a whole bunch of different results and predictions and whatnot. So it's, I understand that you tell it happy-go-lucky, but to me, to make it useful, it's very important that there's a difference between if I give big data on birds or whatever, or I tell stories or whatever, and I have no other position than participating in that specific thing as general audience. It's fine, it's great, but that method wouldn't work with participants on a General Assembly or clients that are also in a core. My clients are also actually co-owners of the means of production and of the government structure, which is a lot of power dynamics there, which is it's not that open and that joyful and that whatever.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. I think what's important is what's the question you have in mind. What is it you want people to engage? So if the example that comes to mind is the question the core group actually asked on like the recycling. How can we together come to 100% recyclable packaging? So it does matter what is the question, what's the unifying theme, and it's not about expecting every single person to participate either. But there's a bit of time at the end to reflect, and I'd like to come back to that if that's okay. So the third mode is share connection. So share connection is about giving incentive, structure and purpose to talk about your business and each other. So one of the great examples, and I'm sure you will know that, is the Ice Bucket Challenge. And it's not, it's not the greatest campaign, and there's some issues with it. But the reason why I'm mentioning it here is because it's a brilliant example of that mode. Giving a shareable, creative challenge that people can adopt, and that nomination aspect of it, and something to do and share is something to learn from. So this is just a really good example of share connection. How can you tap into, by providing a simple structure or an incentive or a purpose, how can you encourage people to kind of talk about your business with each other and about your business?
So would it be fair to say what you're talking about is I'm not going to talk members.
Sorry?
Would it be fair to say what you're really talking about here is engaging your members, I'm going to talk about members here, not customers, as your sales force, by getting them to share your message, their message, because it's their co-op, with their wider networks? Is that what you're really saying here?
Share connections is about that, but whether it is, so everyday participation isn't restricted to cooperatives. It is a tool that for any organisation who has some sort of crowd, some sort of group of people you want to engage, and that might mean it helps your business financially, but actually it is about creating greater impact in the world. Because when you involve people, it not just means that people feel more agency in the world, and that has a positive impact on every single person. But it also means you offer people a chance to shape the business rather than just choose between given options. And people can buy into you, not just from you. So it is really about transforming your relationship with people from a purely transactional, I'm serving them, I'm doing stuff for them, to how can you have a relationship that's where you co-create and shape something together.
Sorry to be a pain in the ass, but the elephant in this room is the fact that the organisations you mentioned, I mean, the phone call was great. We'll see how it turns out now to merge with Mid-Counties. But the problem is actually the structure. It's the fact that participation in governance is completely shut off. So everyday participation has to mean something, and actually in a co-op, the members are effectively excluded from the governance. It's very limited how much you can actually be involved.
Yeah.
So for the everyday participation to mean something, it should connect directly with that governance. And I would actually say the problem that the co-op group has got is structural. It's not about their everyday participation, it's actually about governance participation. Yeah. But that's just an opinion from
So I think you're speaking to this.
Yeah. I'll say the question should actually be about how to use their members to improve their governance, rather than deliver a form of governance from top down and then try and entice the members to become involved. So I think actually the question we should be asking here is how do we involve our members in improving our governance? And that would be a way of putting them together.
So I don't, if it's okay, I do want to keep you on with the case studies, because then there's some time for an exercise. And if we as a group decide not to do the exercise but to have a conversation, that's totally cool with me. But I would want to kind of continue. And I think one thing to say is this isn't about like hard lines. If for you specifically, and I don't know if that applies to everyone else, but for you specifically, I would say, how can you use these modes to help you and just make governance participation more meaningful? Because yes, here the problem is you have just a few people, it's always the same people, and it's really heavy and worthy, and you don't often attract the people you actually want to reach. And the tools, the 7 modes, is the fertile territory to actually help you with that. Whether you use that to make this more meaningful, whether you use them to make governance participation more meaningful, that's up to you, but it's about just making it in general more meaningful. Yeah? Can I just pause and just push on? Yes. Right, good. So,
all I want to know is what is this bucket do? I'm sorry, I'm being
sorry.
I don't get what the point of that is.
Of the campaign. So that was from the ALS Association, and they were raising money for the organisation by having a campaign that was about, you had to throw a bucket full of ice over your head, you film it, and you nominate 3 others. But the trick was that you had to donate money, and if you didn't do it within a given time, you had to donate more. So again, it's not the best campaign, and there are issues around it, but it's an interesting. It's about the structure. It's about how can you learn from that, like nominating others, making it fun, making it adaptable. It kind of spread around the world. It's been going on for years and years. It's one of the most successful donation campaigns. So, coming to mode 4, contribute ideas. So, contribute ideas is all about sharing a problem or an opportunity that you are working on and asking people for ideas. So, I know they're like big kind of innovation challenges, so you can obviously do like a big version where you give money to ideas and give time to develop, but it could also really look like, really simply, you using social media accounts to post a question to the community, to your crowd, asking for ideas. So one of the examples that went quite big was end of the year last year, the CEO of Pret asked a question, how do we encourage more customers to bring reusable coffee cups to Pret? He got thousands of ideas, from really insightful research to what ideas how you can actually fix that challenge. But it was debated and it was voted on, and it was great. So they now have implemented some of the ideas. And it's just really starting from one tweet. I mean, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have given the answer, or their suggestion, but still opening up, using what you have, asking people for ideas, sharing your challenge that's that mode. Mode number 5, give time. So give time is really about providing opportunities of short but meaningful tasks people can do that help your business. So this is an example from Canada. It's called 3 Things for Calgary. It's a campaign that started in 2010 from the mayor there, and the mayor had just won elections and didn't want the political kind of momentum to die out and the political engagement to die. So he and lots of other people came up with this idea called 3 Things for Calgary. And very simply, it's an online platform that asks you the question, how can we make Calgary a better place to live, work and play in? And it asks people to think of 3 things, or 3 questions. One is, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? And what can you do about it? And then come up with 3 things, do them, post them, nominate 3 other people. And by that, we got lots of people in Calgary making the place better. And it is from like little things like picking up litter to volunteering there to bringing supper to the neighbours. But he wanted to engage citizens in creating a space. So again, providing a structured, short but meaningful task for people. Mode 6 is learn skills. So learn skills is about providing formal or informal opportunities to people to learn something about your business or to learn something about your mission that will kind of transform it into advocates of what you're doing. So the Restart Project is an organisation that is trying to change how we use electronics, and that we live in a culture of waste, and how can we actually rather than buy new products when they're broken, how can we fix them? And a big part of what they do is they run these restart community parties where volunteers are helping you to fix the electronics. But the trick is that they don't fix it for you. They teach you the skills to fix your electronics yourself. So it's a community-fueled project, and it's all around the country, and it's quite interesting, again, like providing opportunities for people to learn skills that help your purpose of the organisation. And then the final mode is crowdfund innovation. So crowdfund innovation speaks for itself. So this is about funding new projects or features of existing projects, but it's about asking people to fund something for your business. One of the examples we really like is Technology Will Save Us. That's a kind of a company that designs kind of little electronics to help kids come and understand technology. It's a very interactive organisation. And the way they kind of sell their products is by putting it out on crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter before the product exists. So they ask people, like, is there something that's interesting? They are offering opportunities to kind of shape the product, but also to see, is that something people want? Is there something we can get a crowd behind, and how can even the crowd help us then spread the word about something? So again, it's an organisation that has quite a mission around helping kids get their heads around technology, and for that you do need people to help you spread the word. So using crowdfunding as a way to kind of actually spread their products is very different to just selling your products. So these were the modes. What I would suggest now, and we can have a conversation if you want to do that, is with your questions, I want you to partner up, and everyone gets one mode. So the toolkit consists of a little leaflet and then cards. So every mode has a card. It has prompt questions on it, and it has case studies at the back. So much more than the ones I've just ran you through. And I would suggest an exercise where you pair up, you share your question with each other, and you're basically becoming a bit of a mode coach. So you only have one mode, and you're just generating ideas for your question. And then when the time's up, you turn, and somebody else can, your partner's question, you will work on your partner's question. Does that make sense? And do you want to do that? There's a lot of nodding. So I might suggest we do that, and then have some time at the end for chatting. This does work. Very nice. It's just a way to get you all back. So, just so you know, we're a bit behind time because we started late, but I just want to give a couple more minutes before we go. So, do you have any questions? How was that? Yes.
I've been to quite a few conferences. Often they're run by in the voluntary sector or local authorities, and often they're run by professionals who know how to do these things. And quite frankly, I thought, the ideas we gave, they divide you up into tables, you talk and everything, and somebody records it, and everybody feels good because they had a chance to speak and all that. And then it goes into a black hole.
Yeah.
You never hear back, and I sort of think, well, we've been farmed We gave all our ideas on a voluntary basis. They got paid. Did anything happen? I didn't see anything happen. And there must be, and you know, you've learned these techniques from somewhere. I've not got this, you know, professional training to do these things, but I can see that there's a kind of, you know, there are ways that people learn how to do these things. But I felt exploited by it.
By this exercise?
No, not this one, but those other ones.
Right.
Been doing a bit of this.
So I think.
Say something positive yourself.
I said I think you're saying something positive.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's something really interesting in what you're saying. You're talking about accountability, right? If you're asking people to contribute and participate in what you're doing, there needs to be a mutual relationship. There needs to be people, like the organisation, also coming back and responding to the idea. So I agree. Like you can't just get people to get involved and then don't involve them anymore.
I think just kind of linking to that, I think some of the everyday participation methods are really great and have the potential to work really nicely, but only if they're linked to the governance or linked to the economic, whichever way you want. Because otherwise you just become meaningless and you just like just said, you just feel like you're giving stuff, and I think that's kind of the challenge. Particularly between governance and the everyday participation for me, working with thoughts, like that's kind of where the challenge is the interconnection, not the actual participate. So I think when you have any thoughts on that,
it's exactly what it was quite interesting for us working in so we work across sectors, from food to membership as well, and health and co-ops over the past couple of years, but also with different organisations. And interestingly, cooperatives have participation in their DNA, but they really struggle to engage people beyond these two kind of extremes. And I think that's what our kind of challenge to this sector is. Like, how can you make it more meaningful? And everyday participation is just a tool for you to kind of take and try and experiment. And I'm not saying you will change that overnight, because of the structures. It's actually really hard. So our recommendation is more to how can you test and prototype a couple of things, and hopefully something like the example with Twitter sharing a challenge or any of them, actually, like giving you a bit of interesting stimulus where you can try and do things differently without necessarily changing your government.
Sorry, but I really want to answer this. I'm really an old woman experienced in the co-op world, and I've done, you know, more than one co-op on different levels. Participation is very important to emancipate, to empower, to inform, etc. It is called the ladder of participation. Finally, it doesn't change the power structure. I'm in power. I'm the president of the board of directors. Of course I got power, but the power is bestowed upon me by the members in the first place, and they can sack me each year. So if there's no trust, if the power relations and the disconnect between and the feelings of powerlessness stay, it is not constructive. It's not going to solve any participation. It's not going to solve it. If there's not a final, if there's not an explicit mandate that is given to me. It's very simple. There is a power structure in every corporation, and there's nothing wrong with it, because somebody is taking a daily end responsibility after the participation has taken place and after the economic consequences are dealt with.
That sounds like the voice from the top.
No, it's not from the top.
Sorry, okay, I'm sorry. No, it's getting on.
But that doesn't mean there is no such thing as a power relationship. I make it explicit, I make it consequential, and I make it very clear what is and is not existent. If you want to have end say in things, take in responsibility as well. Come into my board.
Yeah, well, as a teacher of many years, the participation by post-it note came in about 15 years ago, and it was a transition from basically LEA governance to the systems that we run now, which are more like private corporations. And teachers, I can tell you, did take a huge amount of responsibility for what they did on an individual basis. But now it's a process of done to rather than done by. And that is a private institution. Private institutions now taking over teaching. It's been horrendously debilitating for ordinary people because you don't have that participation where you feel like your voice. When someone come back and say, "Oh, I'll ask you next year, Mr. Ricketts," I want someone to come back and ask me tomorrow, next week. You know, so having the ability to communicate with you on a once-a-year basis is not something that really people want, because by the time you come back and see me, I'll be sitting on a beach somewhere. You know.
I'm not saying not communicate. I'm saying you can sack me.
Again, the professionals know how to set up the meeting so that there's actually no way of intervening in what they've already decided to do. I've been there, lots of different places.
Yeah.
I've been around a long time as well, seeing all these things.
Well, I hope that maybe these modes might help you shake things up.